Hello, welcome to aniplane. Today we are going to start new series called Solo Leveling. Let's begin. A dimensional gate between humans and monsters has appeared along with the appearance of the gate. The chosen humans get power, they call themselves hunters, and the struggle for the earth between humans and monsters begins 10 years ago. A gate, or we call it a gate, appeared in various parts of the world. The gate connects the human world with the world of magic or monsters, which we call the dungeon. Along with the emergence of the gate, a gift or power that we call awakening is also accepted by selected humans. The selected people are called hunters. Each hunter has their special skills. There are types of attackers, types of defenders, and many others. In addition to skill specialization, there is a difference in the strength of each hunter. The weakest is given an E rank, and the strongest among the E's ranks can even become a country class hunter. Similar to hunter, the monsters in the dungeon also have different levels. The weakest level is level E to the strongest monster, namely level. So before entering the dungeon, the hunter will first detect the gate that appears. So if the gate that appears is level E, the hunters will send hunters with the same class or above, and so on. Hunters will receive abundant cash benefits after completing the gate, because in the dungeon there are moonstones, or if you're lucky you can get the monocore from the defeated monsters. Carcasses of monsters can also be used for building weapons and other things. All of that can be exchanged for money of high value. So it's no wonder that many hunters are tempted by their profession. A teenage male hunter from Ranking named Sungjin was nicknamed the weakest hunter because even dealing with classy monsters, he almost died and left the gate always injured. Economic difficulties make Sungjin have no other choice but to become a hunter because he has to support sister named adultery and pay for his mother's hospital fees because his mother had an illness that kept her asleep for years. Even though he is called the weakest hunter, Sungjin is still invited to hunt, or in other words, raid, because to go through a gate the rules cannot be less than 10 hunters. All that was done to avoid the risk of severe death. Hunter, a leveled gate appears in the construction area. There Sungjin joined the raid. There he met a healer-type hunter named Junkie. It seems that Juhi is already familiar with Sungjin because they often raid together in this raid led by a magic-type hunter named Mr. Sun. There are a total of 17 hunters in this raid. After entering the dungeon, the hunters succeeded in defeating the monsters easily, and there they find another gate. This was a rare occurrence, as normally there would only be one dungeon. They then drew lots with 8 people wanting to enter the second gate, and another 8 people choosing to return. The final decision rests with Sungjin. He is the one who needs money for his mother's hospital. As a result, he decides to continue the reign. The 17 of them finally decided to enter the second dungeon. They were then confronted with a mysterious gate. The gate opened easily. They were now in a room that was more accurately called a shrine. You can see giant statues around the room, and there is one statue that is the biggest sitting on the throne. We call it the statue of the king. In one corner of the room they all saw a statue holding a stone. Mr. Sun happened to know the script, and he read the commander of the Kartan and temple, which means first, worship your majesty. Secondly, praise your majesty. Thirdly, prove your loyalty. Those who don't follow orders will never come back alive. Immediately the eyeball, or the king, moved and the entrance was suddenly closed. The hunters were starting to panic, but there they were trying to calm down. A hunter then tried to open the gate, but surprisingly a giant guardian statue moved and killed him. This slowly made the hunters shocked by the events they saw. While the eyes of the king of the statues then shown, Sungjin realized something and ordered everyone to get down. With lightning speed, the king's statue emitted laser light from its eyes and burned several hunters to death. As a result of that, Mr. Sun had to lose his left hand. Mr. Sun looked again at the stone carving and said, "Don't move. If you move you will die." One of the hunters tried to run away with his speed skills, but unfortunately again the king's statue burned him. They were even more panicked. Strangely, when the hunters didn't move, the statue of the king didn't seem to respond. Sungjin then realized that this statue was attacking with a pattern. He thought that there was a rule that had to be followed in this temple. Sungjin knows the orders written in the stone. First is to worship his majesty. Jin tried to move then as fast as possible. Jin bowed his head in worship, and the statue of the king doesn't attack Jin. The other hunters then joined in, worshipping the statue of the king, but suddenly smiled with terrible emotions. The atmosphere is tenser because now the statue of the king can stand outside. Jin Wook realized the second order. The second command is to praise the Lord. One of the hunters then tried to recite the praises, but it was unlucky for the king's statue to step on the hunter. All the hunters running for a safe place, but the surrounding guardian statues moved again and many hunters were killed here. Jin Wook then saw an instrument statue. He told the hunters who were still alive to try to hide nearby. One of the hunters was standing right at the instruments statue, and indeed the statue of the king didn't attack him. Jin Wook and Ju He were standing in front of the same instrument statue, and they were all confused because the instrument statue in front of him didn't move like the other instrument statues. Jin Wook then thought that one statue could only be approached by one person. Jin Wook then rushed to find another instrument statue. Before Jin Wook got to the instrument statue, he was thrown and was near the giant statue, which resulted in Jin Wook being attacked with all his might, but he finally managed to get close to another instrument statue. But unfortunately, Jin Wook had to lose a leg. Julie, who is a hunter healer, tries to heal Jin Woo's leg, but Juhi's strength weakened and he was forced to not be able to help Jen Wook this time. They had just sighed and suddenly the statue of the king issued something from the ground. They realized it was a place for a sacrificial ritual. They all then realized the third commandment was show your loyalty. They all thought the same thing. There must be one person sacrificed here. They were all frightened because it had not crossed their minds to die. Now the emergence of the altar became a conflict between them. Mr. Sun, who became the leader of the raid this time, felt that he had to be responsible. Then he entered into the circle of the altar, and immediately a red flame appeared around the altar. The remaining hunters then entered the altar. The other 5 hunters also followed Mr. Sunday. Now they are all in the altar circle, and there are 6 red flames according to the number of people in the altar circle. Immediately, blue flames surrounded the altar and the warrior statues on them all moved now. The previously closed entrance was now wide open, and one of the hunters thought this was an opportunity to escape. He ran. And unexpectedly, the soldier statue didn't attack him and the hunter made it out, realizing that another hunter managed to get out and the warrior statue didn't attack him. Jaywalk then realized something because the third commandment is to prove your loyalty if the entrance is deliberately open to test loyalty on command. This time he realized it was a trap. Jaywalk then told Hunter, who was still at the altar, not to leave the room. Jaywalk also noticed after one of the hunters left that the red around the altar had disappeared. The blue flames also disappeared one by one within the specified time. The warrior statues did not attack even if they were close. Jawa kept thinking. He realized again that we have to wait until the blue flames disappear. One of the hunters then felt worried. He thanked Jin Wook first because thanks to his instincts, he was still alive now. But on the other hand, he did not want to take the risk if he had to die here. He apologized and left the other 3 hunters behind. Mr. Sun, Juhi and Jen Walker had a complicated situation. As time goes by, the blue flames around them disappear, but the entrance slowly closes too with a big heart. Mr. Sun then ordered Jin Wook. Did you eat to leave? But it's a shame this situation didn't allow it because now Julie had run out of energy and couldn't stand up. While Jin Wook lost one of his legs, Jin Wook there took a stand. He knew that he was the weakest and most unreliable hunter. Even though he returned alive, Jin Wook had the heart to tell Mr. Sun to go and bring Juhi. Jin Wook gave John his moniker as a memento because he had helped Jin Wook a lot. So far, Mr. Sun now has no choice but to leave Jin Wook alone. The 2 of them finally left Jin Wook alone. Jin Wook is faced with the statues of warriors in front of him. The blue flames had all disappeared and the entrance had also closed. The warrior statues are now starting to attack Jin Wook, only with the sword left by Mr. Kim. Jin Wook tried to survive as best he could, but the vast difference in strength made Jin Wook now on the verge of death. His body is now lying on the altar and a warrior statue is now ready to draw his sword in his little heart. Jin Wook said, "I don't want to die now." Before the warrior statue gave its final attack, suddenly, the altar reacted and a mysterious screen appeared in front of it. It says you have completed all the requirements. His screen gives Jin Wook the option to accept or reject it. Jin Wook has 2 seconds to make a choice. If he refuses, Jin Wook will die there. He had no other choice but to die now. Jin Wook then accepted it, and the screen now says congratulations. You became a player, and immediately a bright light enveloped Jin Wook's body. Jin Wook opened his eyes and was now in the hospital. Jin Wook had thought that the incident at the temple and the double dungeon was just a dream because Jin Wook saw that one of his legs was still intact and did not feel any injuries to his body. Two men then met Jin Wook at the hospital. They were members of the Korean Hunter Investigation Association. They are a special association investigating hunter-hunter activities in Korea and maintaining a balance between hunters so that there is no conflict. They said Jin Wook had been asleep for 3 days at the hospital, and the 5 hunters who had survived were active as usual. It's just that Julie is currently still undergoing treatment due to deep trauma. Jin Wook realizes that the terrible events he experienced were real. The Association of Investigators came to see Jin Wook because he suspected that Jin Woo had a double awakening. After all, it was impossible to survive such a violent event. When a group of hunters in the White Tiger Guild went to the location, they only saw Jin Wook himself on an altar, and the room told by the hunter who was still alive disappeared. Jin Wook was confused because it was clear that at the time of the incident they were in a large room. Jin Wook thought about whether he had received a second resurrection. The association member then said that generally a hunter only received one awakening, but there were cases where a hunter could obtain multiple awakenings and gain even greater power. The association member then showed Hunter's strength detector. Jin Wook held it, and the value was 10. That was very low because the weakest hunter could get 70. The two investigators then left and apologized for suspecting Jin Wook. Not long after, his sister named Xena came to visit Jin Wook. But here Xena couldn't see the mysterious screen in front of her. It turned out that only he could see the screen. When his younger sister came home, Jin Wook opened an incoming message that contained this. This is a system that will help player development. If you don't comply with the system, you will be penalized. Players will get rewards or prizes if they successfully comply with the system. Another incoming message. Containing preparations to be strong and see a mission that must be completed within a certain time. Jin Wook thinks this is ridiculous. He doesn't have to take part in the mission that must be completed today. However, when the time was up, a message came again saying that Jin Wook was being punished for not completing the mission this time. There, Jin Wook then felt a great earthquake and realized that now he was in a desert. A giant centipede monster appeared near Jin Wook and was about to attack him. A message from the system appears again containing the mission of the present. Punishment is surviving for life from the monster. Attack this time? That's all for today's video. Write in comment section if you want to know what happened next. Like and subscribe aniplane YouTube channel.